Well, good afternoon, Ore Diggers. I'm Andy Flynn, the Senior Director of Alumni Engagement at the Carl School of Mines Foundation. It's great to see everyone today for our February lunch bunch program, our monthly opportunity to shine the spotlight on the people and programs that make mines truly exceptional. If you're joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. And if you're returning, thank you for your continued support. It's always a pleasure to see your faces on the screen each month and just to hear what you have to say and hopefully, give you a better insight on what's going on at Mines. Today's topic will resonate with many alumni, especially those who attended Mines in the 60s and 70s, our ROTC program. Mines has a proud ROTC legacy, being one of the first four schools with that program, commissioning its first graduates in 1921 and continuing to develop leaders in service and distinction. For those alums who participated in ROTC and are on the call today, we invite you to share a few memories after the presentation, whether from ROTC or from groups like Scabbard and Blade, Pershing Rifles, and other military focused student organizations that shaped the mine's experience for many. Some may also remember that 2 years of ROTC training was required for all mine students through the early 70s. Times have certainly changed. But we are honored to have with us today Captain David Hermerding, company officer in charge and program lead for the Mines ROTC program, who will share what ROTC at Mines looks like today, from its historical roots to daily cadet life, academics, and the leadership and career paths our cadets pursue after graduation. But before we start, three quick reminders. If you have questions during the program, please feel free to use the chat and raise your hand icon or simply chime in and ask as we go along. Um, all Lunch Bunch programs are recorded and can be accessed on the Lunch Bunch page of our alumni website at weare.mines.edu. So if you missed out on one, want to listen again, or want to share the program with a friend, visit this page to access the complete archive of recordings. And as always, if you have ideas for future speakers, we want to know about them. Our spring lineup includes several programs suggested by you, including this month's. But we would love to hear your thoughts and what you're interested in. With that, let's get started. And please help me welcome Captain Hermding to Lunch Bunch. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Andy, for the introduction, and thank you for taking some of my thunder on the little history lesson I was going to get. uh, so, since we have people zooming in from all over, and I'm unsure where everyone is, to quote the Truman Show, I'll just say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everyone. So, thanks for having me. I'm Captain David Hermerding. I serve as the lead Army RTC instructor here at Colorado School of Mines, or as we call it internally, Blaster Company. So a little bit about me. I myself am a graduate of the Reserve Officer Training Corps pipeline. I went to the University of Missouri, Columbia, MIZ-ZOU. Um, I started my military career 16 years ago. Uh, Commissioned out of ROTC from Mizzou in 2015 as a field artillery officer. Served in numerous roles from just the platoon leader all the way up to Joint Service Fires Officer, working with Special Forces and Air Force, Naval personnel. Deployed several times. I've gotten my most recent trips having been supporting combat operations in the Middle East, as well as having been a foreign advisor for U.S. military equipment uh, in Poland for about a year. My most recent job that I came from, which kind of hits a little close home for me working here at Mines now, is I was a unit commander and a testing officer in an experimental equipment unit. So I got to play with all the new quote unquote toys, all the new weapons and equipment straight from the engineers before it would get fielded to the rest of the force if it passed our tests. And during my time working with a lot of those engineers, a lot of them actually had come through Mines, whether or not it had been their undergraduate or their graduate degree. But enough about me. I'm going to dive right into the real reason why you're here. Originally, I was going to start off with a little bit of trivia and talk, ask how many were aware that Mines was one of the first four colleges. But Andy stole my thunder on that one. But I know a lot of you already know. Uh, our first commissioning class was in 1921. So we have over 100 years of officer producing coming from Mines. In 1919, just a year after World War I, is when ROTC was officially established here at the Colorado School of Mines under the authorization from the U.S. War Department then. But with that over a century of tradition right here, you got to think about for a little bit. Well, the United States was still figuring out what the military should look like in the post-World War I world, and Mines was already stepping up to develop technical leaders who could serve our country. But one thing to note, even though ROTC wasn't established until 1919, and our first commissioning class being in 1921, Mines has a close relationship with the military going all the way back to 1873, when students in what was known as the University Schools at Golden could be found doing military exercises under the leadership of a Civil War captain named George West. And then when Mines was officially founded soon after, that's when the military department was among some of the first departments established on campus. So it wasn't until after World War I that ROTC was officially designated here, and it was expressly designated here to train graduates for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So I can imagine that a lot of our alumni that came through the ROTC program that are currently on this call probably served in the Corps of Engineers in some capacity during their time in service. Now, as was already brought up, ROTC back in the day was a mandatory program for the first 2 years here, with us reaching to about 1,000 members at most. It was until around Vietnam in the late 60s, early 70s, when a bunch of students petitioned to have that compulsory requirement removed. And then from then, there has been a steady decline in the number of personnel that were in the program. At one point in the early 90s, the Army was going through its restructuring and plans to reduce the total number of ROTC programs nationwide. Mines was unfortunately pegged to be one of those programs that was cut. But thanks to the professor of military science at the time, and thanks to the alumni fighting to keep the program on campus, we still have the program today, albeit a bit different in size and structure. So that's kind of where I was segueing to talking about what we look like today. So let's pull the curtain back a little bit on what ROTC is in 2026. I'll walk you through the program, what it looks like now with our overall structure between Boulder, here, and Denver. I'll talk about the life of a cadet and then how they balance probably one of the most rigorous academic programs in the country with military training. And I'll talk about some of the diverse careers that they've been going into. Especially, I've been reached out lately by a lot of alumni ever since my face got put on the website talking about this lunch bunch. I've had a lot of alumni reach out just asking if there's anything that they can do to help participate in the program or just interact with the cadets and talk about things they can do in the future. Uh, I will do everything in my power to speak slower. I know I speak fast and I fire off a lot of acronyms. And so I even had to put notes in for myself to spell out certain things just because it's how I'm so used to saying things after a decade and a half of service. But we have time for questions at the end, but please feel free anytime something pops up during this presentation. If you want to ask away, please uh, feel free to interrupt. I'm getting used to it now working with the ROTC students here on campus. But so I'll start explaining what ROTC at Mines looks like today. So we're not a standalone program anymore. We're part of something called the Golden Buffalo Battalion. It's a 13 school consortium hosted by CU Boulder. This partnership includes CU Boulder, you got CU Denver, Metropolitan State University, Regis, University of Colorado, just encompassing the whole thing. Here, within our small group, we actually have Colorado School of Mines and then the Colorado Christian University just up the road. Today, we serve roughly over 150 cadets, both between the Army and the Air Force program. The multi-school structure is actually a tremendous asset. While our cadets are training alongside future officers from liberal arts backgrounds, they're also training alongside people from engineering backgrounds, So it's really a nice melting pot where diverse backgrounds just really get to bolster each other up for sure. Business majors, education students, people with completely different worldviews and skill sets. It's quite diverse here, and it's creating a richer training environment, and it's better preparing our students for the diversity that they're going to encounter in the military. But the minds difference, because I've come to learn over the last year of being here that there is a minds difference. And it's what makes our Minds Kids unique. They're simultaneously pursuing one of the most academic, rigorously challenging programs in the nation while preparing to be a military officer. So our cadets just aren't RTC students who happen to be taking few engineering classes. They are full-time mind students studying petroleum engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, applied mathematics, geophysics, chemical engineering, what the whole consortium who have voluntarily added military leadership training to their already demanding academic load. So that's where we go back into, and my alumni that were in the program, they can relate. Think about the decision that you made and that these kids are actively making right now. The average mind students, they already have a packed schedule. Now imagine adding waking up at 5:30 a.m. for physical training sessions, leadership labs, weekend field exercises, and the responsibility of actively leading and mentoring your fellow cadets. It's not an easy path. And the students that are in this company within this program, they show just complete remarkability for the fact that they are doing this. So when you combine that Minds technical education with military leadership development, you're really creating something special. And these are officers who can solve complex technical problems and lead diverse teams through high pressure situations. The military desperately needs this combination, and it's someone who can understand the engineering behind a communications network or weapon system and effectively lead people while doing it. So it's just wonderful to be a part of this program to lead these cadets. So, who are our cadets? Our cadets, they represent the full spectrum of what makes mine special. We've got the traditional engineering disciplines within our program between mechanical, civil, electrical, chemical, and mining. Then we have several computer science students who are absolutely critical to what the modern military operations is starting to stem towards. And then we have our applied mathematics and data science kids. They'll make great officers who can analyze complex systems and make data-driven decisions. So these kids come from all over Colorado, and some of them beyond. We have one student in our program that his parents, they still live in Japan, and he has to come over from Japan every year to be here. Some are first generation college students, and some of them actually come from a multi-generational military family. Uh, Quite a few of our students, they are a son or a daughter of someone who may have retired out of Buckley or down at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs. Some of them knew they wanted to serve since they were kids, and others only discovered ROTC maybe a year or two after their freshman year, and they just decided to try something outside their comfort zone. But like what overall unites them is a desire to challenge themselves, to serve something larger than themselves, and to develop as leaders. So with all that grandiose stuff out of the way, I'm going to talk about what the day in the life looks like. And I know we have a few faculty on this call, so maybe this might lend a few uh, sympathy points with my students. So let's paint the picture of what their typical week looks like for one of our cadets. And I'll use a composite example. Let's call her Cadet Martinez. She's a junior studying mechanical engineering with a minor in engineering physics. Monday morning, Cadet Martinez alarms go off at around 5:30 in the morning. Uh, by 06, she's with her platoon conducting physical training. Now, this just isn't going to the gym. The physical training, our PT, it serves different purposes. Yes, there's the obvious physical fitness component that we're trying to build. Our cadets have to meet military fitness standards, but the PT,
Furniture warehouse. We're all in.
oh, all right. So the PT is not just about meeting physical fitness standards for the military, but it's also about building mental toughness, discipline, and unit cohesion, especially when you're going through that shared hardship together. So Monday, it might be a ruck march, carrying a weighted pack for several miles through varying terrain. My cadets, their favorite thing to do, especially when I first came here, coming from only 800 feet above sea level, is they took me up tabletop right next to our office and watch me sucking through the lack of oxygen air. Wednesday could be circuit training, bodybuilding type training. Friday might be a team competition. It's something like relay races or obstacle courses designed to build camaraderie and just a bit of competition amongst the team. But the key is, and the reason I'm harping on this is before most of the students on campus have even hit the snooze button, these cadets have already been up, accomplished something challenging alongside other students, their peers, and they've started the day with a small victory, and that mindset carries through everything else they do. So the academic day, so by 7:30, Cadet Martinez, shower, change, heading to her first class. And for the rest of the morning and into the afternoon, Martinez, she is a regular mind student. She's sitting in thermodynamics, struggling through the same problem sets as her classmates. She's in the lab running experiments. She's in study groups preparing for exams. Here's a critical point though. ROTC, it doesn't replace academic program. It's in addition to everything else. Our cadets must maintain the same academic standards as every other mine student. There's no special accommodations for grades. Many of our cadets are maintaining GPAs well above 3.5, all while juggling everything else I've described. I've had faculty members ask me how they do it, and it's nothing that I've taught these kids. A lot of this comes down to their own self-discipline, their own time management, and sheer determination. Our cadets learn very quickly that you can't procrastinate when you have obligations at 6 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, and then maybe 7 p.m. that very same day. So we have Monday, Wednesday PTs, physical training, and sometimes we'll have an event on Fridays. Leadership labs will have once weekly. And now this once weekly is our Thursday mornings. So this morning from 5:30 to 7:30, we're out on the side of a survey field running leadership labs. So before the rest of the campus is up, before the sunrise, Cadet Martinez, in my example, she's in her lab. This is our former military science instruction. It's where the theory meets practice. So we'll have classroom portions throughout the week. I'll go over tactics and operations with them, give them military doctrine and regulations, talk about leadership theory, everything from Sun Tzu to modern organizational psychology, military history and its lessons for contemporary challenges, communications and briefing skills, talking about the laws of armed conflict, current military operations ongoing, and talk about geopolitical issues. But like, I don't just lecture at them. A significant portion of leadership lab is stuff they take from, and it's the practical application of all the stuff in class. So for lab, Cadet Martinez might be leading her squad through a tactical problem on campus or a nearby training area, giving a formal briefing on a complex military topic, planning, executing training events for their underclassmen that they are in charge of, conducting land navigation exercises, practicing first aid and casualty evacuation procedures, and then rehearsing military operations of different sorts. All things that are absolutely critical to their development as a officer for the future. So the cadets, while they're in the program, they will work as different leadership roles within the battalion, our company, and the battalion as a whole. This is not hypothetical leadership either. These are real positions with real responsibilities, with real consequences. So as a freshman, or as we call it, MS1, Military Science Level 100, Cadet Martinez, she would have just been a regular team member, learning the basics and following more senior cadets and learning from them. As a sophomore, Military Science Level 200, she would become a team leader, probably responsible for about 2, 3, or 4 individuals and responsible for bringing them up in their development as well. As a junior, an MS3, she's now a squad leader. She's a platoon leader. She's the company commander, responsible for training and mentoring anywhere between 8 to 40 individuals. She plans training, evaluates performance, counsels her team members, and ensures everyone is progressing toward their commissioning goals, all with my input and steering. I don't just let them go wandering off on their own. And then next year, when Cadet Martinez is a military science level 400, she might be the battalion operations officer, executive officer, or even the cadet battalion commander for all the 3 schools or all 15 schools that make up the 3 companies in our program. She would be planning training for 150 cadets across multiple schools, coordinating with all the military and science instructors from all the different schools, managing resources and schedules. Like these are real management challenges with real consequences. But coming out of a role where you managed 150 people and then going into the army where you're now only in charge of maybe 20, 30, 40 people, you've done leaps beyond what you already are doing. So once a semester, maybe several times a semester, we'll do a field training exercise. So once a month, typically on a weekend, the battalion as a whole, we will conduct a field training exercise. These are 48 to 72-hour immersion training events where the cadets are going to apply everything they've learned in a realistic field training exercise. We'll go up to Camp Guernsey, Wyoming. A lot of times we'll go down to Fort Carson, Colorado, or we'll use land at the Air Force Academy. We'll conduct recon missions, plan and execute tactical operations, solve complex problems with limited resources, the whole gambit. The point behind it, though, is it's cold, it's often muddy and snowy here in Colorado. It's physically and mentally exhausting, and that's where the real leadership is forged. One of the things I always tell the cadets is the roughest terrain you will learn to navigate is not going to be the terrain that you're out there. It's going to be the human terrain. It's the people that you are leading. And how do I motivate them when it's cold, muddy, snowy, windy? How do I motivate them with task, purpose, direction, and give that guidance to go and accomplish a mission? So I've watched cadets, even just this last year, who were very shy and uncertain as freshmen, transform into very confident squad leaders who are able to brief in front of 40, 50, 60 people. They can adapt to changing circumstances at the snap of a finger, and they can lead their teams par none. And they are well on their way to be our next cadet battalion commander over the next year or so. So as well as all that stuff that I mentioned, there's additional responsibilities that they are expected to sign up for in order to gain more points within ROTC to try to get the job they want in the future. So they might serve on a color guard for campus or community events. They mentor high school students that are interested in ROTC from the local junior ROTC programs. They do a lot of volunteer work or community service. And then just the networking that we do with alumni and active duty officers. So after all this stuff that I just had Cadet Martinez go, after all this, after PT at 6, classes all day, leadership labs, and maybe a color guard in the afternoon, Cadet Martinez still has to study. Because that thermodynamics exam doesn't care that she spent 2 hours leading squad training. That coding assignment also might still be due at midnight. And so this is where you see the real character of some of our cadets. They learn to manage their time ruthlessly. They learn to prioritize. They learn to ask for help when they need it. They learn to sleep. They learn that sleep is a tactical decision. And somehow they still find time to have a social life, maintain friendships, and occasionally enjoy being college students. Now, as I just saw pop up in the chat, someone talked about intramural and sports. I have several cadets that are intramural athletes and also part of the varsity teams, either here at Mines or at Colorado Christian University. So everything that I just wrapped up, add being a varsity sports member on top of. These kids absolutely blow me away with all the stuff that they're involved with and continue to be involved with. So I would be remiss if I didn't bring up what happens during the summer because that's a critical part of ROTC. So between their junior and senior year, while most students at Mines are stressing about an internship, my cadets are stressing about an internship and then a camp that they all have to go to. So between that junior year and senior year, all Army ROTC cadets nationwide attend what we call advanced camp. It was formerly known as Warrior Forge, and then it was called Leadership Development Assessment Camp. Recently, it's been named the Cadet Summer Training Advanced Camp. This is a 30-day training event held at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where approximately 4,000 to 5,000 cadets are going to come from across the country, descend on Fort Knox. It's essentially a month-long job interview. Cadets are evaluated on everything between leadership ability, tactical proficiency, physical fitness, communication skills, decision-making under pressure, and character. They're watched 24/7 by cadre because we go and assess them during the summer. Their performance here at this camp won't determine whether or not they'll commission, but also their job of choice on what they want to do in the future. It's intense. During this summer camp, the cadets are leading missions. They're being evaluated constantly, like I said. They're competing against peers from senior military universities to get a better point as it goes to the national ranking to try to get the jobs they want. So for our mines cadets, this is where they tend to prove their technical education combined with leadership development makes them exceptionally capable officers. We also have other opportunities for them to go to if they want to go to a special school. We have airborne school where these kids go become Army parachutists. They'll jump out of an aircraft. Air assault where they'll rappel out of helicopters and learn helicopter operations. Mountain warfare, not particularly relevant here in Colorado, even though the course isn't taught here anymore. They'll go up to Jericho, Vermont, and they'll learn how to navigate the mountains and conduct combat operations up there. And another one is called Project Go, Global Officer, and it's a training abroad program where they get a chance to understand different cultures and military forces. So these experiences on top of the internships they're already doing, it's a great chance to broaden their perspective and give them specialized skills and training that will serve them throughout their career. So all that stuff with what Cadet Martinez is doing here, they now have more opportunities to go off into the Army afterwards into different branches and different jobs. So commissioning. Upon graduation, our cadets will commission as second lieutenants to the United States Army. They will receive a branch assignment, so not like branch as Air Force, Marine, or this, that, and the other, but more of their military occupational specialty. We call it branch for officers. So essentially, it's their career field in the military, and they'll head off to initial training. So Army officers will typically attend basic officer leadership course for their specific branch. Their initial service obligation typically is 4 years of active duty, though some jobs, specialty like aviation or pilots, require longer commitments, up to 10 years. So the branches in the career fields, it varies, and it varies just like our cadets on the things they want to do. You have what's called combat arms and combat support and operations of technology. So we have infantry. Those are the GI Joe. You're leading rifle platoons. You're the background of ground combat forces. You have armor, which is our tank and cavalry operations. Field artillery, where you're coordinating and delivering fire support from cannons anywhere from 10 to 30 kilometers away from the battlefield. You have air defense artillery, which is protecting our forces from aerial threats. Then we have operations and technology and combat support jobs. You have engineer corps, signal leaders, they're the ones who do communication networks, the IT infrastructure. You have military intelligence, those who do conduct analysis, human intelligence, signal intelligence, cyber operations, which is becoming a big thing, and a lot of our computer science students tend to try to lean towards that role. So where this is important, though, is the military needs these technical experts. So a petroleum engineer, for example, who becomes a quartermaster officer, might be a little bit better at managing field operations worldwide, or a computer science major who leads a cyber operations teams in the Army. It all varies depending on the type of job they go. So I'm going to talk about a few of our students' real examples. So one of our graduates from about 6 years ago studied petroleum engineering here at Mines. She commissioned as an engineer officer, served 4 years leading construction and engineering projects in challenging environments overseas. She learned to manage multi-million dollars budgets, lead teams of 30 soldiers, and deliver complex projects under very tight deadlines and very hazardous environments. And after her service, she transitioned to a major energy company where she now leads international drilling projects. Recently told me that her military experience gave her confidence to lead teams in difficult environments, whether it's a forward operating base in combat or a drilling platform in the North Sea. The leadership principles are relatively the same. We have another student, graduated computer science and commissioned into the Army's new cyber branch. He spent 5 years protecting military networks from nation-state adversaries, working at cutting edge of cybersecurity. You got to see threats that most security professionals will never encounter in their entire career. When he left the military, he was recruited by some major tech companies to lead their security operations. His salary tripled, which is sometimes a nice leading piece to go for. He's now protecting critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. The technical skills he learned at Mines, combined with the operational experience from the military, made him exceptionally marketable. So the long-term value, whether our graduates serve 4 years or 20, 30, 40 years, whether they stay in the military or transition to civilian careers, they all have gained something in value. It's leadership experience that a lot of their civilian only peers will never get until much later in their career. They've gotten a global perspective that they've had the opportunity to serve around the world. They've made a network of fellow veterans across the industries. They've built confidence that only comes from leading people in difficult challenges. They've developed adaptability and mental agility from operating in very uncertain, high stakes environments. And then they've developed more in their character and matured more through their service and sacrifice. So I'll stop off with a little bit, talk about leadership development that you can't get anywhere else. I jokingly call it the battlefield to the boardroom. Think about your typical college graduate's first job. You're probably an individual contributor at an engineer working on projects, analysis crunching numbers, the program writing code, and you might not get real leadership for 5 to 7 years. Now, contrast with the ROTC cadets. By the time they're 23 or 24 years old, they're second lieutenants. They're leading anywhere between 30 and 40 people. They're in charge of their soldiers' training, welfare, overall professional development, equipment worth millions of dollars, mission accomplishment under time pressure, and they can make decisions where lives could be at stake. So you can't replicate a lot of these leadership experiences in the civilian world at that age. And this accelerated leadership development is incredibly valuable, whether you stay in the military or transition to the civilian sector. So, with that, I don't want to keep rambling on. I do want to open up for anyone that might have any questions.
I do see a question in the chat from Ted, if y'all can see that. How many of our current cadets are in fact mine students? I would assume all
So
of them are, but maybe
I
not.
would say a majority of those students are mine students. Within our Army ROTC program, we're very small. Me and Sherry Giamo make sure we take care of both Army and Air Force cadets here. Air Force instructors come down from Boulder, but when a lot of the stuff is handled in-house, we do it in here. So about 40 on a good year. We have 50 cadets in the Army program. Uh, and a majority, I would say 90% of them are mine students. And that also includes the Air Force program. Pretty much all of them are mine students. We only get 1 or 2 cadets per year group that come out of the Colorado Christian University. And how many SMP? I would say a good say a good 20 of our cadets are SMP cadets. They enjoy the benefits of being able to use Colorado Guard service member benefits, federal tuition assistance, and getting that active drilling experience. And so by the time they commission, they've already been serving in some capacity for 3 or 4, maybe 5 years. I myself was an SMP cadet. I made it up to the rank of sergeant before I contracted and eventually went through the roles of commissioning. What percentage have gone to active duty over the last several years? So that's a fun question. So with the way the military is going and with restructuring, but then also with the students coming out of this school with a 98% job placement rating and a really nice mines degree in hand, a lot of them are choosing actually to continue on in the reserves or the guard. They want to get that weekend warrior that still serving, but already going into the industry. Where they're excelling is the fact that their entire life now revolves around some leadership role, whether that's being a leader in the private sector and then being a leader when they go to National Guard drill. John asked, does mine still have an active Air Force ROTC program? So everything with the Air Force program is unfortunately cross town. The underclassmen, they'll have an instructor come down from Boulder and they'll teach the underclassmen here on campus. But the upperclassmen and a lot of their leadership labs, they have to do stuff at Boulder. So they have a giant carpool gang formed and they get everyone up to CU Boulder for Air Force labs. So our scholarships still readily available as an incentive to draw people in. So they are becoming more and more difficult, or I would say rare, due to restructuring and money being moved around at echelons above what I can actively speak for. Uh, we used to have the ability to give on campus-based scholarships for students that were in the program. We would have two handfuls of students per year group that would come in on scholarship, but now we're only seeing maybe one or two kids coming in every year on scholarship, which is a driving force for a lot of our cadets to go into the simultaneous membership program. The simultaneous membership program is where you are an active member of the Colorado National Guard or the National Guard for your state where you're at, while being in the Reserve Officer Training Corps for your college. And so that is one of the things that is driving up our numbers in SMP right now. The percentage of our current cadets that are women, I would say it's relatively low. We only have two in our senior class. We have three in our junior class, one in our sophomore class, and one in our freshman class. So it's relatively low. It is relatively low. Is there any alumni that are currently in the room that would like to speak about their time in ROTC? Because I can speak about ROTC as it's related to me the last 10 plus years and even these last year teaching here. But I know it must have been a drastically different experience, especially for those that were here in the 60s and the 70s. Colonel Lee, would you like to share a story? I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, real briefly, I'm calling in from Canberra, Australia. I still work for the federal government, but I did serve 27 years as an Army engineer. I entered on a ROTC scholarship in '79 with about 9 other cadets, and that really reinvigorated the program at the time. We had an alumni. His name is escaping me now. I'll find him. Who was the professor of military science, Army Lieutenant Colonel, and a number of other officers, primarily special forces. We were right down the hill from the library. Old wood buildings, had a cannon out front, kind of near the gravel pits. I know the campus has changed quite a bit. It was quite a program. Students at the time throughout the entire school still took some courses. They're not the level that they are today. Map reading, soils and concrete, etc. But it wasn't. I think in those years they were fading out that it was required. But it was a great program. I was able to participate, Pershing rifles. We had a quite active. I think it was once a week program called Pathfinder. Did rappelling in the clay pits, scuba diving, cross country skiing. We actually had a bunch of old World War II skis, with the tar base back in the ROTC department at the time. But it was quite an experience. Still proud to be a Mines alumni, and after my tour here, heading back to Colorado Springs. So I'll come up and visit you now and then. So that's my story.
No, I appreciate it, sir, and we look forward to your visit. I can definitely say the program's changed a bit. We don't have the opportunity to go scuba diving or skiing as often as I think we would like. But one thing I can say, we still have the cannon out front of the office. So that's the one thing that we kept the same, sir. Does anyone else happen to have any questions? Or Joseph
Hey,
Gilbert?
can you hear me? This is Bill Dewsbury from Columbia, Maryland.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
I graduated in '71. I came to Mines, shortly out of high school. Graduated in '71. I graduated as the Ranger Company commander when we had a Ranger program there. I was in the first cohort of Army ROTC cadets globally that went to airborne school during ROTC. And when I was there, we had a politically testy situation. All kinds of things happened. We had federal inspection one year where somebody put 11 pounds of gelignite in the parade field, and the school got it leveled out by March on. A lot of challenges there. What we were taught was a heavy branch material engineer curriculum, and the cadre at the time told us that by the time those of us who went through the whole program, we learned more about design than they taught in the advanced course, and I believed it. We got mine warfare, demolitions, basic infantry stuff. The earth sciences map reading was not a big problem at mines because the geology and geophysics departments do that pretty well. So like I say, we graduated a lot of people. I keep wondering if my classmate Lyle Bonham is on this call, because he and I came out of school together, went to the basic course together, and then separated. Never saw him again. But when I left, I went to Special Forces, as a volunteer. And after 2 Special Forces tours, I came back, for an engineer assignment at Fort Bragg, and decided that I really didn't want to do maintenance. So I ended up doing some other things, and along the way, I spent 2 years teaching ROTC out in California, where we had a sort of arrangement like you guys have gotten. I've seen what has been written about how they've changed Cadet Command, recently. We had a brigade there. We had 4 battalions, and we were at the host when they had, host and extension center configuration. So I was an MS4 advisor, platoon TAC. When I worked as an MS4 advisor, I worked to support my office mate who was the MS3 advisor to prepare cadets, use my seniors to prepare cadets for camp. Because that was a big thing. Then we got graded on how well, our cadets did at camp. When I was in school out there, I remember everybody had the summer field sessions. And I drove my major selection on the fact that in the math department, I could shift that to after my sophomore year. So I went to camp as a junior, and then to jump school, and I graduated on time and had no problems. We were still doing all of that, and being a TAC, if you've been through that experience, you know what it is. Toughest OER you'll write in your life. But beyond that, I served in Okinawa. I served in Panama. Bunch of TDYs, and my final assignment, I was deputy chief of the Army Special Operations Division in the Pentagon. Retired in '99, and then later on, a few years after that, playing with junior ROTC and being a contractor, I came back and just finished 18 and a half years as an Army civilian. I was in the Army Warplanes Division in the Pentagon. So that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I appreciate it, sir. And that's a very diverse career for sure. And I'm definitely going to take that away when I talk to my students more, trying to explain to them constantly like the diverse careers they can go into, especially having come from this school. I'm not trying to bash my undergrad by any means, but big public university in the middle of Missouri, we had a decently sized corps of cadets. Everyone, you're going to go off to do infantry, you're going to go do transportation, you're going to do cavalry or artillery, but none of us had any specialized school. A lot of us were history majors or political science majors.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids here are just trying to impart that mentality. I was like, you are coming out of mines with something special. It's going to set you apart from everyone else, and also it helps them too when they're applying to try to get an active duty job. The Army looks at the school and the degree that they had. And so my history degree, my political science degree from a public university gets weighted here versus the kids going to this academically rigorous school with a STEM degree of some sort. They're going to weigh them way higher than my type of degree. And so they're already setting themselves apart from the rest of the nation.
But are you guys still involved in the accessions process, preparing accession packets and so forth?
Yes, sir. We do all their cadet evaluations and set it up for their sessions after their junior year to see if they want to go active duty.
See, and my experience there, for what it's worth, is after accessions were resolved when I was a cadet, the school got notified, and one of the instructors came and handed me a piece of paper. It says, "Okay, you've been selected. Regular Army Corps of Engineers. Call this guy and start talking about your first assignment."
Mm.
Okay.
So we handle a lot of that in-house. So we'll help build their sessions packet with them. Mind you, there's a lot of legwork that they have to do because this is your career. You have to own it. But a lot of the input we still own. We'll get notified of what they get. But then after we get that notification through the modern cadet management system, we'll be able to pull and generate orders to help with their forward movement. We don't want to overwhelm Human Resources Command and all the different job managers with, hey, here's 4,000 more kids coming in. So that's still one of the roles that our civilian employees have to hold on to.
Well, it sounds like a much better system.
I have a question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bill. Not to be a wet blanket or anything, but how many of our students just don't make it? They start the program their first year and they're on a very rigorous track. And are there some who say, "Oh, not my cup of tea. This is more than I bargained for, and I just need to step out"? I mean, what is the retention of the cadets when they start?
I'll be honest, we lost, I believe, 15 kids from fall coming into spring semester.
Uh-huh. Wow. Okay.
Like, I always want to be clear, ROTC is not for everyone. That's okay. Like, I always applaud anyone and everyone that wants to put on the uniform in some capacity and serve. But it's demanding. It's going to require sacrifice and of time, comfort, sometimes your friends and opportunities. It's a serious commitment, especially when you're at a school like this.
Yeah.
GPA sometimes is a thing that gets us
Uh-huh.
because balancing ROTC and balancing this school, it's tough. And so if we lose somebody, it's either, wow, I didn't know what I was fully signing up for, or sometimes it's they didn't make the GPA requirements. So it's one of those things that the officers that we produce after their 4 years in the program, maintaining that tough GPA, maintaining their physical fitness, coming out of this school and through this program, you know that they are an officer of severe character because they made it through a really tough school and a tough
Sure.
program. So we lost about 15 cadets from our fall semester coming into the spring semester.
Can I add in there, David? Hey, this is Ted Preister. I'm a 95 graduate from School of Mines and spent 24 years on active duty, ending up as a professor of military science at North Dakota State University. So at the end of the day, losing 15 in a freshman class is actually pretty consistent across many, many schools. I mean, it may be a little high, but there's a lot of schools that have young students join and figure out, oh yeah, I don't want to be involved in that across the board. Doesn't matter how academically challenging it is. That hurdle was already crossed when they got admitted to mines.
Oh yeah.
It really comes into what else they have going on in their lives, and ultimately, I applaud you. You told the story pretty effectively as you opened up the conversation about, cadets at mines are doing a lot more than people ever could realize on top of the academic rigor going on there. So I just appreciate and applaud your continued effort.
No, I appreciate it, sir. And one thing I will caveat a little bit, so our sister companies at Boulder, if they lost 15 cadets, it would definitely not be as bad of a hit. But we're already kind of a smaller company due to just the sheer size of our school. But one thing I will note is that 15 didn't all unfortunately just come from our freshman class. It makes its way into the sophomore and junior class because as time goes on, grades sometimes slip with some kids, and or maybe they're just not prioritizing things the way they should, or it's just getting harder and harder for him here at Mines. So we definitely unfortunately saw that loss in retention across 3 year groups. So furthering my point that the kids that come out of this program, that do come out of this program with, especially with the high GPAs that they have, that shows that they were dedicated the whole time.
Yeah. How many cadets are part of the entire Buffalo Battalion of which Mines is part? So you've got Colorado Christian, Regis Metro, CU Boulder.
I would say
all together, how many
almost
cadets?
160.
I'm sorry, say again?
So just the Army cadets between the 3 companies, about 160.
Oh,
But
wow.
here at Mines, between the Air Force and the Army, we have about 150 between all Mines cadets between the branches. But Army cadets,
Mhm.
all 160.
Captain Hermning, what as you have a set of alumni on here, what could the ROTC program use from alumni? I mean, what kind of support maybe are you looking for from your, alumni, from the program itself? I mean, what are there ways to be involved or ways to support you? I mean, what is going on over there?
So one of the ways I'm looking for involvement from those outside, I would say I recently just got reached out by some alumni. We have a Colonel Binstock. She's local to the area. She's a product manager at BAE. I'm going to have her come in and do leadership development programs with my cadets because there's so much I can tell them as a combat arms officer in the artillery, and I can brainwash them all day. But she has this experience of being in the military and private sector at the same time as a reserve officer. And so those who have served and then got out and got into the private sector and used that mines degree are those who drastically went a different path, worked in engineering in the Army, worked in services in the Army. Any outside perspective is great and very welcomed because, I'm an artillery officer. The instructor prior to me was an infantry officer. We can give them a very narrow set of like, this is how the Army is versus actually getting to experience and hear from other people what the Army is actually like. One thing I'm working to get set up, and it's not, unfortunately, it's not going to happen this semester, but I'm looking to try to do it spring of 27, is I'm going to start trying to do a thing called 100s night. It is your 100 nights out of commissioning. It's an opportunity to celebrate the seniors, the military science 400s within our company. It's just going to be a semi-formal thing that we're going to try to do here on campus, little dining in type of deal. But it's a thing that I would like to try to open or welcome alumni to come and interact with the students because, and it's a thing that I've seen before at like retirement ceremonies. You have the group of people retiring, they always bring in young soldiers who are about to commission, or not commission, but young soldiers that are in basic and RIT. And it's hey, we're taking the mantle from you. And so having the alumni in and experiencing that with our current cadets, these are the people that are coming in to take the mantle from you. And I had that mantle, and here are some stories I can impart on you.
Idea.
Hey, David, this is
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Hey, David, this is Joe Gilbert. So, class of 2000, engineering physics. I'm still in the Army, so actually colonel now. So I had a 2-year break in service, but after many years, one of the things that stuck with me is whether it's through Misery Loves Company, but you build a tight knit group there within the ROTC company and then the battalion, and so wherever you go, they say the Army is small. Well, the Army ROTC within mines is extremely small. But throughout the years, I've been able to connect with different people along the way. And David, you've seen it in the Army where, you leave a duty station, you come back and you find somebody, and it's like you just left off, right?
Yep.
You pick up right where you left off, and you're right there. And it's even tighter knit, I think, within the mines alumni. What I've found is, connecting to some of the ones that I've known, throughout the years, it's just instant. And it's small. It's small, but it has a huge networking power with it, to where, at any moment you can pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, I was a Mines alumni, you're a Mines alumni. Boom, let's solve this problem together." And it's quick to react. I didn't ask the question whether, the School of Mines company was still beating, CU Boulder Ranger Challenge, but I'll save that one. Hopefully they are. But actually, if you need anything, I'll shoot you my contact info. Be happy to connect with, some of the cadets. I've had a really weird, career path, but I think that kind of comes with the territory here. Coming out of mines, we're very diverse, and so we're able to, navigate those different diverse career paths only if we know it. To your point, right? We have to know what's out there. And final point is, tell Colonel Renee Benstock I said hi. I think she was class of 2001. So again, the community.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I knew her, with Vines. So tell her I said hi. And thanks for putting this on.
Will do, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So,
All right, Ruth, I cede my time and I hand it back
Yeah.
to you and Andy.
thank you so much. We are at time, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please reach out if you have questions or want to learn more. And before we say goodbye, just a quick plug for our next two programs to finish out the semester. Thursday, March 19th is our next lunch bunch, where we're going to shine the spotlight that month on Blue Key, because Blue Key is celebrating its 100th birthday this year. So lots of activities and celebrations happening on campus, and we'll hear from the president of Blue Key, as well as a few alumni who were involved. So join us again, Thursday, March 19th, noon to 1. And then in April, FYI, that's going to be Thursday, April 16th. We're going to be focusing on critical minerals, which is such a huge topic. We have recently hired a wonderful global leader in critical minerals. She has joined the mine staff, and she'll be talking about our role in those discussions, and what's happening in that whole sector. So I hope you'll join us for that discussion. These programs and more are all listed on the Lunch Bunch page of our website, where you registered for today's program. So keep an eye on that. And yeah, we're delighted to see all the faces. And thank you again, Captain Hermerding. So impressive. I can see your building from where I'm sitting right now, right across the street. And I am so impressed and overwhelmed by all that is coming out of the program. So thank you all.